Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Hey there, do you like spooky or maybe true crime? Well, on my podcast, Missy Mysteries, you can get a little bit of both. Most weeks, I focus on missing persons and unsolved cases, but some weeks, I have a little bit of paranormal stories, or special two-parters with a little bit of true crime and a little bit of paranormal, like the Lizzie Borden case. Check out Missy Mysteries every Wednesday, wherever you like to listen to podcasts.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say
hey,
fuck
y'all.
a lot.
Welcome back to Mountain Murders.
I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dylan.
Hey, girl.
What's up?
I'm the sky, girl. What's up? Nah, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. We had a great week. We had a little road trip, little mini trip down to the Knoxville area.
Went all up in the Knox.
Yeah, I had a great time. I love Knoxville.
I love Knoxville. You have to go get you a little pie, a little gourmet pie from the Sky Pie.
It's called Buttermilk Sky Pie.
Buttermilk Sky Pie. You got to hit McKay's. Check out the multimedia formats.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of the trip. We love McKay's used books. I was able to go in there and snatch up quite a few true crime books.
Every time.
We have cases for days, Dylan.
We have cases for days. It's funny. People will be in there and act like they own the section they're standing in front of.
Yeah, like have you never been in a retail setting before? Like there are other shoppers? I know, it's kind of funny.
No, but we're back in the studio and we are ready to jump in the Wayback Machine.
Feeling refreshed. You know, it's always good to get out of town, even if it's just for a night or two.
It is.
Right?
That is what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, we needed that, Dylan. All right, I have a very interesting case for us today. We are going to have to get in the Wayback Machine.
Let's go ahead and load up, girl.
Now, this story takes place in North Carolina, so our home state.
Always a good thing.
You ready?
I'm ready.
William Bonaparte Cole was born into one of Richmond County's wealthiest and most prominent families. His ancestors were pioneer textilemen. His great-grandfather, his great-great-grandfather, Walter Francis Leake was one of the charter signers and promoters in forming the Richmond Mill, chartered in December of 1833 and put into operation in early 1837. By 1839, the mill had 1,000 spindles in operation. 2 dams were built above the mill, which provided for saw and grist mills. By 1840, the factory had 2,200 spindles, 20 looms, and supported 35 employees.
So it's starting to grow. He's built a business, basically. And I find it interesting how long ago humans found out that hydraulic power, dams and water rushing through things, they could use that to create other stuff. So you get your grist mills, your saw mills.
Yes, and I love how you are inarticulately explaining that to us. You're absolutely correct. And for those who are not North Carolina natives, who are not Tar Heels, we should discuss how the textile industry was one of the main businesses here in the state for many years. You mentioned before we started tobacco, textiles, furniture.
And that was basically the whole of the economy for the most part.
Yeah.
And textiles were a big deal up through the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I remember even as a kid where there were textile mills, especially when you get to like the Piedmont area of the state and down east.
Yes, Shelby has whole sections of town that are old textile mills.
But we did have a couple of textile mills or, textile businesses here in the mountains. And I do remember folks working. Champion, the sports company, I believe they had a business locally.
Back when it was the off-brand in Kmart.
Yeah, exactly. By the age of 15, Cole entered the family textile business. Focused and determined, he became the bookkeeper of Great Falls Mill, located on the outskirts of Rockingham by the time he was just 20 years old. After serving 5 years in that position, Cole went to study textiles in Lowell, Massachusetts. While a student, Cole received a job offer from J.W. Cannon, who owned the Concord Mill. Cole accepted this offer. In 1899, he moved back to Rockingham to take a job with the new and modern Steele's Mill, the last of 5 local mills that had been built by his grandfather. So how cool would that be?
That would be awesome. In a way, he's come full circle back home to stuff that his grandfather helped create.
But Cole wasn't happy with this minimal success. By 1906, he chartered his own mill and sold shares to raise the $2,500,000 he needed in capital. I'm sorry, $250,000. What am I talking about? $250,000.
I was like, that's a lot.
I'm sorry. My brain is a little mushy right now. He named the business Hannah Pickett in honor of his great-grandmother. Within 2 years, Cole had 45,000 spindles in action at Hannah Pickett.
Wow.
Now, if you remember, his grandfather's mill initially started with 1,000 spindles. Here he's got 45,000 spindles.
So he's doing it bigger and better than his grandpa ever did.
Initially, he saw only modest success, but World War I saw his business boom. And I think that happens a lot during wartime.
Well, yeah, they say war's good for the economy.
Is that why our country keeps getting us involved in all this shit?
Unless you're the one getting bombed, I guess.
He expanded in 1919 and again 4 years later. By 1922, his mill village population had rose to 1,500 residents.
Wow. So this happened a lot in rural areas around mills. Like the town develops because of the mill.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
boom towns.
By 1925, Cole had gained power over half of Richmond County. He was considered a leading entrepreneur among the top half dozen textile men in the state of North Carolina. So he's yielding a lot of power, a lot of influence.
Yeah, people know his name.
In 1927, he constructed the Hannah Pickett No. 2. This would total 101,648 spindles among his business model.
Now, I'm no spindle expert, but that seems like a lot of spindles.
That's a lot of spindles, bro. Aside from being known for his top-notch business acumen, Cole was a devoted family man. He married a distant cousin named Elizabeth Love Little of Arkansas, and together they had 3 children. He was described as a loving husband and had a very strong connection to his children. Like, he was a very active father. His oldest daughter, Elizabeth, shared a very special relationship with her dad. In the 1920s, the tall, brown-eyed brunette was among the most popular young women in town. By the 1920s, Dylan, America was seeing shifting attitudes in youth culture. Young people were breaking away from their Victorian parents' ideals. No longer were young people being supervised under the watchful eye of their parents. Socializing shifted from the family porch or parlor to places like Fox's Drugstore in Rockingham and to local dance halls. More people owned cars by this time, so driving downtown to park and watch others was a popular pastime. So, Dylan, these were like some OG sitting and looking folks. Well, they drive, they sit, they look.
Well, and I applaud them for that. But could you imagine having stuffy Victorian parents? I mean, their ideals are probably, I don't know, they seemed kind of, I don't know what the word is, stuffy, right? I mean, sitting in the parlor.
I always compare Victorian life to the corset.
Yes.
Right? It sucks you in and keeps you like in this tight, very uncomfortable sort of position.
Yeah.
And so you have to think of the 1920s as kind of loosening that corset up some.
Yeah,
right?
And the modern day, I would say maybe if you had boomer parents, and then the next no, actually, I would say what we're Gen X, right?
We're kind of Gen X millennials. I'm not sure. I think we're considered elder millennials, bro.
We're a generation of children who never grew up.
That's true.
And now we have disposable cash. You can always tell when me and Heather go on trips that we're just kids with pocket money in our pockets.
Yeah,
right?
I'm just randomly like, I think I need 4 pairs of cowboy boots. Dylan's like, well, girl, you just got You just got paid. Buy you some cowboy boots.
Buy you some. I done found some work boots over here. Get you some, girl.
What are you going to do, Dylan?
But yeah, so they're breaking away. There's a significant change in what society's
Well, yeah,
doing.
I mean, you have to think about young people before like the 1920s. If you were courting, right, the suitor would come to your home. He would be under your parents' eye. You would have to sit in the family parlor.
Wow.
The
Yes.
living room.
Yeah.
You know, you weren't allowed to hold hands or kiss. That would be inappropriate. I mean, you were very, very, very supervised.
Everyone's chaperoned, and this speaks on how much the car changed our society as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. All right. So Elizabeth Cole dated many of Rockingham's eligible bachelors. In 1922, she began dating Bill Ormond, the son of a Methodist reverend. At age 24, Elizabeth was a popular young woman with a broad social circle. When she started dating Ormond, many were confused about the union. He had physical issues left over from his time serving in World War I. He had wounds and had suffered German gas attacks. And he had no college education. He was hardly the kind of young man who could afford to maintain Elizabeth's standard of living. But as we know, money often means less when love is on the brain.
Oh, it's true. When you're in love, it's all that matters.
It's true. Bill Ormond was known in town as a light-hearted young man with a great sense of humor. He often hung out downtown at the soda fountain inside the drugstore.
That's where you would find me at.
At the soda fountain?
Yeah, right beside the soda fountain. They probably got that good Coca-Cola, too.
Looking for some fries?
Yeah.
Exactly. That's probably where you'd find me. That's where we would meet. I'd have a corn dog. You'd have some fries.
I'm like, who's that girl over there?
Life is good.
Where's her parents at? I'm going to go ask her daddy if I can have her hand in marriage.
Oh, please don't. You don't want to ask my daddy for anything. Quickly after meeting, Bill fell in love with Elizabeth's friends who enjoyed his lively conversation. I mean, they just sort of welcomed him in as part of the group. He was accepted.
I can imagine he has some incredible stories to tell about being in the trenches in World War I.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh, they were still on horseback in parts of it.
I would love to sit down and talk to this guy. Unfortunately, we can't do that.
He's not going to say a lot back now.
The couple played tennis together and were often seen riding around in Bill's Ford Roadster. A friend recalled the pair riding in the car, quote, "The little Ford Roadster, you know they were low cut, but Elizabeth was a tall woman. She'd sit in Bill's car and you could see her knees sticking up over the side of the car."
Oh my gosh.
So I guess that was kind of scandalous.
Oh yeah, all that bare leg parading
Well,
around
I don't know
town.
if they were bare, but just being able to see even the knees in the covered dress was probably like, ooh, right?
Man, I caught a shot of her ankle, man. I'm telling you what.
That's the hottest ankle I ever seen. You'd probably look at mine and be like, that bitch got cankles.
You don't have cankles.
Are you sure?
I'm certain because I saw a woman plotting her cankles into some boots at the boot store.
Oh.
Yeah. Loudly talking about buying boots.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can make fun of her because she was really obnoxious.
Well, I normally would.
She took up the entire aisle and would not shut up for 45 minutes about how she was buying these boots. And we're like, well, then just buy them and get on somewhere.
She's like, I got to stretch them out a little bit. I was like, honey, they're getting stretched out every time you try them on, girlfriend. You just keep on stretching.
After 2 years of dating, many speculated that Cole and Ormond would marry. Mary Terry, nice name, a friend confirmed, quote, "Oh, he was in love with her all right, and she must have been in love with him. They were together all the time." Ormond had difficulty maintaining employment. He had what they called at the time shell shock, but we know
PTSD.
today this is PTSD. Elizabeth's father unsuccessfully tried to place the young man in a job at Hannah Pickett, but that didn't work out. Cole then wrote to his cousin, North Carolina Secretary of State W.N. Everett, asking if he could speak to the governor, his second cousin, about finding some kind of work of charity for Ormond.
Well, I can imagine a shell-shocked vet with PTSD in a loud factory setting probably wouldn't be, especially back then, it's scary and super loud and really unsafe. Probably wouldn't be a great environment for him.
No, not at all. Cole also helped Ormond get out of financial problems, once co-signing a bank loan so Ormond could keep his car. Yet the couple's passionate relationship was not without trouble. By the spring of 1924, the romance began to cool, with the couple ultimately breaking up in October. Bill Ormond wrote a fiery letter to Elizabeth, essentially blaming the breakup on her father. Ormond wanted to discuss the matter with W.B. Cole. Yet others agreed that Elizabeth had been the one to end the relationship because she simply grew tired of Ormond. Devastated after the breakup, Ormond moved to Raleigh, where he enrolled at North Carolina State University. Before the war, Ormond had studied briefly at Duke University, so he planned to continue his career path, this path to education. You know, he felt like that's the way he would be able to find suitable employment, make life better for himself.
Not a bad idea.
And, you know, his father is a Methodist minister. Duke University is a historically, you know, Methodist. It was founded by Methodists. So even though it's a very prestigious school, Dylan, his father's role as a minister probably helped pave the way for him to get into the school. Because you kind of made a face like, oh, Duke.
My daddy's a preacher. He preaches down there in the square every evening.
He does.
It's a crazy homeless guy on a box, but that's my daddy. He's telling you what fur. He's giving you what fur on your eternal soul.
I just love how we managed to get through the podcast with only saying a number of inappropriate things. Thank you.
Oh, unhoused man. I'm sorry. Let's move on. Sorry.
You were talking about this woman's cankles. Now you're talking about this guy.
Well, look.
Damn, dude. You're going to get us an F.
I will straighten it up. I'm going to talk about nothing but industry from here on out.
Yet, due to the hearing loss he had suffered during the war, Ormond was unable to succeed in the classroom, eventually taking a job at the physical plant at the college. Bill rose fast through the ranks, becoming the chief electrician in a short period of time.
Wow.
However, his feelings for Elizabeth Cole had not faded. The two corresponded with letters and met on occasion when Bill Ormond returned to Rockingham. All the while, Ormond insisted that W.B. Cole was responsible for the relationship's demise. He even sent letters to the man with this charge. The first 3 letters Cole dismissed and is said to have burned. But when the 4th letter arrived on February 14th of 1925, the letter, which was typewritten, quote, jolted his very soul.
Man, you know, a strongly worded letter carried a lot of weight back then.
It still does today, Dylan.
Oh, yeah? No, but he just won't let it go. He is convinced in his heart of hearts. He's moved away. You know, he's trying to, you know, move. He's found some success, you know, and continued his education. And now he just won't let it go. So he, even if it's not true, he certainly believes that her father was the problem.
Exactly. Cole was incredibly upset by the salacious allegation that Bill Ormond made that he and Elizabeth had, quote, been living as husband and wife for the past year.
Whoa.
Scandalous.
No.
Suggesting the pair had been engaging in a sexual relationship outside of marriage.
Well, I could see this kind of pissing you off if you got a letter like this.
The slanderous details left Cole in such shock, he fainted.
Oh my gosh, I declare.
Cole then went on a short walk to collect his thoughts. And then he arranged to take Elizabeth for a drive in the country. He's going to confront his daughter. I love that the look on your face is like, oh no, not a ride in the country with Dad.
No, I'm just watching this guy read this letter. He's received the other letters, and he's like, whatever, I'm burning them. You mean nothing to me. And then he faints. And then he wakes up, pulls himself up off the floor, takes a walk to gather his thoughts. And now, I can only imagine, he's probably going to ask his daughter, what the hell is this guy talking about?
As the father and daughter climbed into the car, Cole began to cry. He drove down the road, but not before handing his daughter the letter. After reading the accusations, Elizabeth denied every word. W.B. Cole told his daughter if it was true, she owed Ormond her hand in marriage. It was the right thing to do. Yet Elizabeth adamantly denied they had ever had sex. Honor and public opinion were synonymous. In challenging Elizabeth's virtue, Bill Ormond had also attacked the Coles family honor. W.B. Cole accepted his daughter's word. In such traditional society, nothing could arouse anger quite like hurling an insult against a woman's reputation.
Yeah. Honor And someone's word really they meant something to people back then.
Southern men in particular responded passionately when their honor was tested. An unwritten law existed that a man had every right to defend his family's honor, particularly when a woman's chastity was questioned. There was a period of time when the accuser could apologize, but if not, whatever followed was considered acceptable. And this is why I chose the case to talk about today, because I find this unwritten law very interesting and how it plays into our story.
Yeah. Gosh, man, I've always wanted to take and slap someone with a leather glove twice,
yes,
and declare that I, challenged them to a duel.
Well, why have you never done this?
Well,
what is stopping you, Dylan?
Well, I have no honor, it turns out.
Okay, well, that's true.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Without waiting on an apology, Cole was furious and penned his own letter. Quote, "You damnable, contemptible, insulting cur. Your damnable, mean, insulting letter received. If I ever hear any more of this from you or through you, I will fill your body full of lead."
Oh, wow.
Daddy mad. Daddy big mad.
He is big mad.
When Cole's letter arrived, Bill Ormond doubled down. Instead of sending an apology, he taunted Cole, calling him yellow and calling his bluff.
Now, calling someone a cur is basically you're calling them cowardly, all that.
Yes.
A dog as well, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But Bill's like, damn that. And he pins him back a letter taunting him.
He's probably like, "You yeller-bellied piece of shit.
You yaller.
You bring it on. Bring it on, Big Daddy."
You know where I'm at.
Exactly.
There's roads all the way down here. Go ahead and jump.
See, that's probably what happened, Dylan.
Come on down here and get you some of this. I done took the lid off this can of whoop ass.
See?
I'm sitting here letting it breathe.
Oh my God. Yeah, you have to let it breathe.
This is 3-year-old whoop ass. This was a good year right here,
Okay,
bud.
let it breathe.
Yeah.
Maybe just, swirl it around a little bit.
You fuck around all the way down through there.
The oaky notes of rebellion.
And when you get down here, you're going to find out.
Okay, exactly. The chart comes into play where you fuck around
Yeah.
and then you find out. Right. So Cole and Ormond essentially arranged a 20th century duel.
Oh, my gosh.
With this letter.
I'm sorry. I was starting to clap my little hands. I was like, oh, my gosh. I was hoping a duel would come up.
After the arrival of Ormond's response, Cole realized the severity of the situation. Cole had only intended to intimidate Ormond. He hadn't actually meant to carry out the threats. So when Cole realized that Bill Ormond meant business, he went to discuss the situation with an attorney named Fred Bynum. After reading the correspondence, Bynum suggested they place Bill Ormond under a peace bond to end the matter before it led to violence. The following day, the lawyer and client drove to Raleigh to meet with Bill Ormond. However, Ormond was out of town visiting family in Nashville. Cole and Bynum met with a Raleigh attorney named James Poe before Cole returned to Rockingham. Bynum took a train to Nashville to track down Ormond. After visiting Ormond at his parents' Methodist parsonage, Bynum left feeling Cole had not revealed the whole truth. He could see a peace bond was not appropriate as Cole had been the one to escalate this threat.
Man, the fact that lawyers are involved, they're tracking people down, a peace bond, I don't even know what that is, but I feel like they should go ahead and sign on for it and stop. Some kind of a truce, I guess, on paper maybe. What in the world's happening here?
Bill Ormond wrote a letter to Cole on a piece of Reverend Ormond stationery, apologizing for the comments made in the letters regarding his sexual relationship with Elizabeth. He promised never to write Cole or Elizabeth again and said that he would no longer cross paths with them.
Oh, okay. So he's someone, or he's figured it out himself, this is getting out of control and we need to just stop.
Satisfied with this, Bynum returned to Rockingham with letter in hand. It has been reported that during the early weeks of summer in 1925, Bill Ormond went out of his way to bump into W.B. Cole.
Oh my gosh.
He made 2 trips to Rockingham, and during one, walked through Cole's office building.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty blatant attempt at contact.
While back in Rockingham, Bill Ormond told others about his relationship with Elizabeth, further slandering the young woman's name. So he's just out running his mouth. Yeah, I hit it and quit it. What?
I done put the can lid back on that can of whoop ass, but he can come down here any time and I will bust it out.
Ormond wrote 2 letters to Bynum. The attorney advised him to let the dead past bury its dead. He told the young man, "You need to move on from this and let it go."
Well, yeah. I mean, what are you doing, really, dude? You're arguing with this girl's father through the mail, which obviously is a main correspondence back then, and going around. If I was out Bill's friend, I would say, dude, what are you doing? Like, let it go. How long has it been now? I mean, it's been months and months and months. It must have been.
Yeah, at this point, it's been over a year.
Yeah. So just let it go. You know, you're having success with other parts of your life, and just you'll meet someone else, dude. Come on. And maybe their knees won't stick up out of your car.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you find a short bitch.
Maybe you find a girl with some little legs like my
me,
wife.
yeah.
Aw.
I can't. My feet won't even touch the floor when I'm sitting in the car.
Oh, they should
Right?
be just looking up over the edge.
It's true.
Oh,
Now, his parents urged Bill to stay clear of Rockingham. He and his younger brother Allison had planned a trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, choosing to travel by U.S. Highway 1, a route which would take them right through Rockingham. The day before the trip, his parents pleaded with him to reconsider the route. But Bill chose to go through with his plans. He and Allison arrived in Richmond County on Saturday, August 15th, around 1:30 p.m. Upon arriving in town, Allison went to visit his girlfriend, while Bill joined a swimming party hosted by his friend George Entwistle at the Ledbetter Lake Clubhouse. Around 4:30 p.m., Bill called Laura Page Steele, who was related to the Coles. I believe she's a cousin.
see, it'd be one thing if you're coming through town and you're going to go out of your way to avoid these people. But I think everyone knows that Bill's going to try to make contact in some form or fashion.
A guest at the swimming party, Mary Terry, would later recall how George Entwistle had advised against speaking to Cole's relatives. George told him not to go to Rockingham, for he would be shot dead. Bill Ormond argued that W.B. Cole was a coward who, quote, didn't have the guts to kill me.
George Entwistle?
Entwistle.
Entwistle. Even better. What a great last name.
Yeah. Well, you know, Peg Entwistle very famously hung herself on the Hollywood sign.
I did not know that.
Okay, well, there you go. There's a fact for your day. George said, quote, I know him. I live right beside him. I've known him all my life, and he will kill you over Libbet. Libbet was like the nickname for Elizabeth. Ormond dismissed his friend's advisement. Instead, he drove into town with his holstered pistol laying in the front seat of the car. Because that's exactly where everybody should keep their holstered pistol.
He's looking for trouble, dude.
On a summer afternoon, downtown Rockingham would have been covered up with people doing shopping, visiting, and socializing. From mill hands to farmers to white-collar folks, it was brimming with activity. Bill Ormond parked directly in front of W.B. Cole's building. Cole
Gosh.
always worked late on Saturdays and kept his office in the building. So he knew exactly where he was. And Ormond was well aware of this information. Bill Ormond got out of the car and walked over to a nearby garage to place another phone call to Laura Page Steele. Cole, who's sitting at the window of his office, happens to look down. When he sees Bill Ormond so brazenly strolling the street, he grabbed a .32 caliber pistol and stuffed it into his pants.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Then he went downstairs. As Ormond returned to the car, he seemed oblivious to Cole's presence and casually lit a cigarette as he sat down in the roadster. From the side, Cole approached, looking strangely and wild, according to witnesses. He reached into the car and fired at Bill Ormond. The first shot entered his right arm and exited under the left arm. Bill Ormond was within 2 feet of Cole. He reached up and grabbed the pistol, trying to take it from his attacker. That's when Cole fired a second shot. As the bullet entered Ormond's hand, he let go of the gun. W.B. Cole fired a third shot which entered into Ormond's torso above the right lung. It was clear that W.B. Cole had meant to kill Bill Ormond.
right there in front of God and everybody. In
On
the
a
crowded town.
Saturday.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But, this is ridiculous, I must say. I mean, a ridiculous reason to be having a gunfight. Well, I guess it's more of a murder, if you will, right there in front of everybody. So you imagine trying to walk your kid around, and they got some little penny candy or something. They're like, oh, let's go downtown. And next thing you know, some old man, wild-eyed old man's shooting the hell out of some dude in a roadster.
Not too far off from what goes on today, Dylan.
That's true.
Cole turned and walked back to his office building. Entering the premises, he handed the gun to John Porter, the young owner of Steele's Mill, who was also Elizabeth's new boyfriend. He said, quote, I just killed that damned Bill Ormond. Call me a doctor. Porter warned him not to say another word, then called for Cole's physician, Dr. Everett. A mill employee, J.T. West, intervened, rushing Bill Ormond to the second-story office of Dr. Bristow nearby. Ormond was not yet dead. Meanwhile, news of the shooting spread like wildfire throughout the downtown area. When Dr. Everett arrived at Cole's building, a crowd had already gathered out front. The doctor and Cole left out the back entrance and went to Cole's home.
Now, is Cole injured?
No.
So, what in the world? Why do you call for your doctor?
Maybe he was having stress.
Oh,
Dylan, he just
okay.
shot somebody.
Well, that's true.
Not all injuries are physical and you can see them.
Well, that's true.
Okay.
He wants some of them feel-good pills.
John Porter left to find law enforcement and report the shooting. In 15 minutes, Bill Ormond was dead on Dr. Bristow's table. Cole had hoped Elizabeth would arrive home soon so he could be the one to break the news of Ormond's murder. However, the police chief, S.E. Covington, arrived first. He agreed to wait until Elizabeth came home before arresting her dad. Cole explained to the chief he had, quote, did it for the sake of the family name. Law enforcement wasn't exactly sure what to do. Bringing charges against the most powerful millman in the region, along with this unwritten rule of defense, Sheriff Branson Reynolds phoned a North Carolina Supreme Court justice to seek advice.
Wow, he went straight to the top.
Judge Adams affirmed the proper next step was to arrest W.B. Cole. Reynolds asked if he had to lock Cole up in the jail, and the judge again said, yes, yes you do.
That's how arrest works, bud.
You put him in jail. Cole was clearly well-liked and influential in town. I mean, he had a number of supporters. Right off the bat, friends gathered at the Cole home offering financial support. They would post bond, any amount needed, suggesting we can start with $1 million.
Well, yeah, he's obviously well-liked and obviously wields power in the area because the sheriff is reluctant to even arrest him, obviously, right?
Yet the coroner's jury didn't believe it was a case that even should have a bail set. It was learned fairly quickly that Cole's money nor his reputation would keep him from jail. So friends did what they could to ensure W.B. Cole was as comfortable as possible. They brought him home-cooked meals. His desk was moved into the cell so he could conduct business. Several of his closest friends spent the night in jail with him so he wouldn't be lonely.
Well, I'll come down there and hug you up, Cole. You've always been good to me. I'm a big guy. I'm warm, and it's gonna be cold in that jail.
Dylan, now you say that jokingly, but I know your relationship with your bestie. And if you had a chance to go hang out with your bestie in jail, like if your bestie got arrested, I think you would go sleep in jail with your bestie.
To help him feel better?
Yeah.
If they allowed it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
See?
But I ain't saying we're going to be cuddled up, but I would sit with him
Why not?
for a few hours
I would watch y'all be cuddled
until I needed
could
a
watch y'all be
cigarette.
cuddled up.
I'm like, look, dude, I got love for you, bud. But I got to go. I want to have a smoke.
Okay. Jailers left his cell open, the door, so that he could come and go as he pleased within the building. He became a popular inmate. Others were seeking his advice.
The fact they brought his desk down there so he could keep doing his work. I mean, that's hilarious to me. And it also shows how much, even being directed by outside authorities of various degrees, they're still kind of catering to him.
Yes.
Big time.
Yeah, you're right, Dylan.
It's like Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
When he was in prison, it wasn't really like he was in prison. He came and went as he wanted. and he brought women in and out. They still having good food, partying down. I mean, it's not exactly, that's not prison. That's not jail, right?
Well, if you remember in watching Goodfellas, it seemed that for some years, maybe the mafia also kind of had some of these same privileges.
Oh, yeah.
Money is power, Dylan.
Money is power.
The press went wild when they learned of the homicide. Every major North Carolina paper at the time, including the Raleigh News and Observer, the Charlotte Observer, and the Greensboro Daily News, and the Atlanta Constitution, all printed headlines within 12 hours of Bill Ormond's death. While most reported objective information, the News and Observer painted Cole as a rich mill tycoon who viciously murdered a wounded veteran.
Wow.
Cole's friends and business colleagues knew they needed to run a public relations campaign for damage control. So they sent someone to speak to a local news editor, Isaac London, who ran the Rockingham Post-Dispatch, and they even offered him a bribe to write positive articles. But London refused the money. He did seem to lean in support of Cole a bit after the meeting. President of the United Methodist Women, Addie Webb, took to protesting the veteran's murder on the courthouse steps, hoping to incite a lynch mob to take care of Cole. Cole happened to serve as a member of her church's board of stewards.
Okay. Looking to incite a lynch mob, and that'll just take care of it.
Yeah,
And she's representing the Methodists.
the Methodist women.
Okay.
Yeah. Reverend Ormond had wished to hold a quiet funeral service for his son, but it quickly became a large affair. Businesses in Rockingham closed early to honor the young man's memory. The funeral moved to the Rockingham Methodist Church with nearly 700 attendees. Reverend Ormond still arranged a quiet service with no hymns or eulogy. The funeral procession had nearly 100 cars following to Eastside Cemetery. After the funeral, it seemed the anger placed on Cole had now dissipated. While Bill Ormond's friends called the murder, quote, violent and cold-blooded, others pointed to the evidence against Ormond. Cole's attorneys circulated hundreds of the, quote, slander letter written by Ormond around town for folks to read.
Wow, so they could read it firsthand for themselves. Wow, I would love to be in the middle of this. I'm sorry that he got killed, but I would the gossipy kind of element of this, I'm here for that.
Me too.
Wouldn't you be wanting a copy of the letter so you can read it yourself?
I love trash. I don't want to be part of it, but I like to watch it. Does that make sense?
No, it makes a lot of
We've talked about
sense.
this a lot. While opinions were divided on the issue, others took to reminding Rockingham residents that they would need to live amongst one another after the reporters had packed up and left. Almost everyone in town was related to one another. They're all cousins, distant cousins.
Or work together.
Married to each other. Yes.
Yeah.
Gossip reportedly subsided, and people focused on the facts of the case. So for once, people are able to put their BS aside, look at the facts. Due to Cole's wealth, he was able to hire a team of lawyers. The Ormonds did not have the same financial standing and scrambled to find funds to secure legal counsel. They were able to hire attorneys who had solid reputations. Despite the Ormonds' private counsel, the local solicitor was responsible for the state's case. However, Solicitor Phillips had his own awkward connection to Cole. He was engaged to Cole's cousin, Octavia Scales. The pair moved in the same social circles as well. However, Phillips put those factors aside to build a case against Cole. Cole's team of 7 attorneys went to work on his defense. Newspaper reporters from all over the South arrived to cover the trial, from Atlanta to Baltimore, Dylan.
Wow. That was a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And in the entire region.
By the time of the trial, most people were curious about Cole's defense. People hypothesized about his plea. In jail, Cole said, quote, "If I go down, I will go down with my head up." Many took this as a statement that Cole would not use insanity as a defense. Others assumed he would invoke the unwritten law because Cole told a traveling evangelist, quote, "I did it to protect my daughter and the daughters of other men." The Charlotte Observer wrote, quote, "The stage, figuratively speaking, is all set for what is generally considered will be the greatest legal battle in the criminal annals of the state."
Oh my gosh. See, that's the problem with the unwritten rule or law is it's unwritten. It's not official. It's not on the books. But what can happen there is if that truly is what people feel is the right way to go about it, your jury pool can be tainted with that same thought. Well, he was defending the honor of his family, his daughter. So that can lead to a not guilty verdict.
For the jury selection, Cole's lawyers looked for religious men with daughters. A few farmers, merchants, and men in good standing were chosen. 8 of them attended Baptist churches. All were fairly educated and successful. Though the judge didn't allow the witnesses to describe Cole as seeming insane at the time of the crime because temporary insanity was not a thing during this time, they were allowed to use the unwritten law, which was first used in 1859 by Congressman Daniel Sickles. The temporary insanity plea became a standard for cases involving some form of alleged sexual dishonor, like later on. Cole's attorneys felt the first day of trial was a success. Ormond's gun was produced in court, much to Solicitor Phillips' chagrin. Cole's cousin, William Scales, had removed the weapon and other personal items from Ormond's car, giving them to Laura Page Steele, who then turned them over to Cole's lawyers.
That's wholly inappropriate.
Yes.
This is a crime scene.
It is a crime scene.
You took significant items from the crime scene and kept them and gave them to a freaking lawyer? That is not okay, bud.
The prosecution did not want to recognize the gun as part of the case, but the defense won out, and it was submitted as evidence. The gun firmly established self-defense as a second motive for W.B. Cole. Elizabeth Cole's testimony was calm and clear. She spoke coolly and answered all questions asked of her. Elizabeth defended her father's actions. Her testimony would include many details of her private life. Around 1,000 spectators sat in shocked silence as the young woman recounted intimate details of her private life. As the defense worked to uncover the nature of the relationship between Bill Ormond and Elizabeth, the prosecution was angry.
Well, yeah, why? This is not what the trial's about. I don't care if they were having premarital sex or any of that.
But that's part of the case. You have to.
Yeah,
you have to take that in consideration, Dylan.
I get that, but I feel like they're going way too far down that road. You know what I'm saying? It seems like Bill Ormond is on trial instead of the person who walked up and murdered him.
Well, yeah, but I also think it's an important part of the case.
Okay.
I mean, it
would. I mean, it's what began it. It's what began the feud, if you will. So, yeah, I guess so.
Well, if they're invoking this unwritten law, then they're building a case of like he did all these things that led up to this. I mean, I can understand why this information is being presented.
Okay, but again, your defense is an unwritten law. I would have issue with that if I was the solicitor.
Well, honey, it's 2023 and we don't do that nowadays.
Oh, we got some unwritten laws around here, girl.
So the prosecution, they don't like this at all. And they threatened to submit letters Elizabeth had written to her boyfriend, which would reveal certain details. The defense told the state to go ahead and do their worst. They were confident a virgin was being presented to the court. The prosecution alleged the letters would prove that W.B. Cole had interfered and broken up the engagement between Ormond and Elizabeth. Elizabeth Cole denied ever being engaged to Bill Ormond. 10 witnesses were called to testify to Elizabeth Cole's splendid reputation. Solicitor Phillips was stunned when his fiancée, Octavia Scales, was called to testify on Elizabeth's behalf.
Oh my gosh.
They were cousins, very close friends, and she had insight into the relationship. Her testimony undermined the prosecution's contention that Cole had broken up Elizabeth and Ormond.
Man, what a power play by the defense.
When Cole took the stand, he described the slander letters and his steps to correct the situation. He went on to say, quote, "I shot him to keep him from killing me and leaving my family at his mercy to slander. At the time I shot him, I did not think I was doing wrong."
Well, I must say, Bill showing up when he's been living out of town, right there in front of his office. Here's a weapon in open display. I mean, it don't look that good.
Well, Cole's consulted a lawyer. Like, he's taken steps to try to remedy the situation.
Well, I mean, you really could frame that he came here to kill me, and I just had to do it before he got a chance to get me.
Cole also said, quote, I felt I had a moral and spiritual and legal right to protect myself. I feel like I did, and if I had not done it, he would have killed me. The line about the spiritual right seemed to appeal to the Southern Baptist jurors. It invoked the Old Testament law and the right of a man to protect his family. Together, those were the foundations that formed the unwritten law.
Okay.
People said they never had seen a man on trial for his life who presented as calmly as Cole. After 11 days, the jury finally reached a verdict. W.B. Cole was found, what do you think, Dylan?
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
I knew it.
Cole was declared sane 2 days later and released. W.B. Cole died June 13th of 1954 in the Pinehurst Hospital. He was buried on his 82nd birthday. Cole died of old age, though he had been considered an invalid for several years before death. The Cole Foundation was founded in 1965 as a permanent endowment fund of the Foundation for the Carolinas. It was created by Elizabeth Cole and her brother Robert in memory of their parents. When the siblings died in the 1980s, the majority of the estate went to the Cole Foundation. This program grants assistance with economic development, education, scholarships, recreation, arts, culture, and more.
Okay.
And they are still the Coles. I mean, they're considered, a very prominent family in Rockingham today.
Just don't question any of their daughters' virtue.
Exactly.
They'll shoot you in the face.
What do you think, Dylan?
It's a very, it has all the elements of a Wayback Machine story.
It does.
It does. Here you have a titan of industry, if you will, and you have a thwarted lover. And Bill should have just let that shit go. And I'm not saying what Cole did was right, but he's aware of the unwritten rules. He is aware of the type of letters he's written this man and what kind of a problem it could cause. And I guess he truly believed that Cole was cowardly.
And he's instigating.
And he did
by
instigate.
Showing up.
I'm not saying
bringing a gun to town. In the words of Johnny Cash said, "Don't bring your guns to town."
Well, I'm saying, like I said, if they just passed through the county and the town and just kept moving, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Somebody might have glimpsed him right through and whatever. But pulling up downtown in front of his office, kind of lounging around, acting like you don't have a care in the world. Unfortunately, he fucked around and found out. And he was murdered. I mean, it seems like cold-blooded murder to me. But
well, I think what is interesting
they
about
don't think it's cold-blooded
story
murder,
is if we presented this case today by modern ideas, this would be cold-blooded murder, right? But you have to consider this was in the 1920s. It is just after that Victorian period where slander, a family's reputation,
virtue and honor.
It was so scandalous to make these kinds of claims and accusations against a woman.
Right.
And against her family.
Yeah. So he took it there off the rip.
Yes.
In the
and
beginning.
It's hard for us to understand today, but it was just such a different time, and I think you have to consider that. I mean, there are laws in the books that we look at today and think, what in the hell? But, 200 years ago, that was their society, that was their culture.
And that's a very important point you're making. I think this happens a lot nowadays.
Well, we view everything through our lens.
Right.
Of modern, what we know and what we think is right, and we become kind of self-righteous and, well, we're right and we know and we're smarter than those people. But they lived in a society that was vastly different from what we know today, whether it's good or bad.
And you could take examples from today, back then, and they would be like, what in the world?
Exactly.
I don't agree with any of that.
They would see people out in public acting a fool like they do today, and they would be dumbfounded.
Right.
Like, who are these mongrels running around?
It's true. It's true. And me and you have discussed before, people of all colors had way more, style and family and honor and all that meant so much more to them.
Self-respect.
It's true. And it wasn't just white people. It was everyone lived like that, honestly.
Well, your word meant something.
Your word meant something.
People had integrity.
Your signature meant something.
There were ethics involved in just about every decision you made.
That's why you can see
people knew that choices they made could very well impact the community that they had to live in every day.
Yeah, it's true. And that's why you'll see in these older or period pieces, someone will have a piece of paper signed or with a wax seal proving it came from someone. That's the law. It's good as gold.
It's like a contract.
It's like a contract, and everyone respected it.
So again, very different times.
What do you think about it? I mean, I guess you gave your opinion by pointing out what you did to me. That it's a different time. He thought he was acting inside societal norms, and he thought he had a right, if he didn't do this, that the bill might kill him. So, I mean, that seems to be what he truly thought. Do you believe that?
At the end of the day, I think you've got these two grown men who are acting very immaturely and are involved in this pissing contest
It's
where
true.
clearly there's no winner because one will die and one will have to live with that for the rest of his life, that he killed a man. So at the end of the day, do we really have a winner in this? No. You have two grown men acting a fool. And
That's
for what
true.
reason? Because one decided to say something inappropriate. I mean, whether it was true or not, like, why did Bill Ormond feel like he needed to tell her dad this? I mean, it comes down to being immature, not being able to handle rejection.
Let it go.
And let it go.
Yeah.
So it looks to me like Bill Ormond possibly was a bit of a stalker, maybe. I mean, he can't let it go. He's hounding this woman. He's still writing letters to her, even though she's moved on.
Right.
So it just shows me that he's a man who can't handle rejection very well, and he let it go to the extreme. And then her dad can't just take this guy's reaction and just chalk it up to like, okay, well, he's a war veteran. He may not be totally, quote, right in the head. You know what I'm saying? He's got shell shock, which at that time they didn't really understand.
But they knew that
Then-
people acted erratically.
But they knew,
Yeah.
but he knew this man had been in war and was probably behaving erratically because of maybe something to do with his mental health. And then continued to kind of keep going with this, you damn scoundrel, or whatever.
Well, I feel like if Mr. This is all speculation, obviously, but if what was his last name? The old man?
Cole.
Cole. If Mr. Cole had just ignored the letter, I got a sinking feeling that Bill would have wrote more. He wouldn't have let it go.
No, I think so. I mean, I do feel like at the end of the day, Bill, he's just an agitator
Would have written
who
more.
can't let go of his relationship with Elizabeth.
And who knows what his true intentions were, how far he might have went. He may have, called Cole out or shot Cole if he had the chance, or he may have went and found Elizabeth. That's what I thought this story was going to go, honestly, is they would come find Elizabeth and a new suitor
Well,
or
that
something.
could have
and kill-
been
Yeah, I know. Who
the
knows?
next possibility. I mean, who knows what would have happened?
Well, thank you for that. That was an unfortunate turn of events for Bill, obviously. And but that was a very interesting story, and it was very breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I think it brings up just some interesting discussion. When I was researching, I thought this will be a great case. We'll get some great discussion out of it. Plus, it's an old case that probably many people aren't familiar with unless they're from the area, from that Rockingham area, because I think it's still kind of stuff of legends there a bit.
Okay.
So I think it's just really interesting to shine a light on it and to spark this conversation and discussion. And I'd be curious what our listeners think about it.
I hope they liked it. I loved it.
You did?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
You liked it? You loved it?
That story was a woman. I'd take it out for food.
Oh, I want some food.
It's a date. I'll feed you.
Can I have some food?
What do you want?
Anything
Anything?
at this point.
When she says that, she doesn't really mean anything.
No,
She
I'll
has
eat
a
it.
specific thing in mind,
That's not true.
and I can't pull it out of her.
I'll eat anything right now.
Okay.
I'm just very hungry.
Well, I'm going to go put a slap of feed bag on this one over
Yeah.
here, and we will catch you in the midweek.
Like a feed bag of nachos?
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I'll take that,
Yeah.
too.
I'll get my nachos and my salt lick. I'm ready.
Let's go order one.
Okay. We'll be back soon with our midweek. Until then, stay safe. Keep it real.
Keep it real. Keep it
Don't-
100, folks.
Don't write nasty letters to your ex's daddy.
Don't, because you never know how they're going to react.
No. Just let it go.
You know she ain't had no honor, no ways.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Okay, bye, Dylan.
Bye.